Hello, book lovers, and welcome to my channel. I'm Peg, and I usually talk about the latest science fiction out, but today I'm going to talk about another kind of novel fiction. Okay, I am completing or still working on my response to the end of summer book tag, which has been a lot of fun. Steve Donahue tagged me last week, and I jumped on it and made a video and answered a couple of the questions, but didn't really get more than two answered. Tend to be a little long-winded, I guess. And so I was retagged again this weekend by EarnestlyEston. I'll put his name at the bottom because he gave a really interesting response to the tag there, and I've seen a lot of other good ones. So feel free to do this tag yourself if you haven't, or you'd like to. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about the book I wish I'd read, though I'm changing that to the book I should have read. I don't know if I really wish I'd read it or not. Now, I'm not going to show you this book right away because it's going to take some explanation, and I'm not going to be able to show it to you and hold it right now. So you'll see later. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, I'll tell you that, first of all, this is not a science fiction book, but a book of translated fiction, which you wouldn't call that a genre, but that's a kind of fiction that I have really been getting into lately. In the past, there's been a great imbalance between novels that are translated into English and those that are translated English books that are been translated into other countries. And you can imagine which is more. Many more books are translated from English to other languages than we translate theirs. I mean, it almost appears like we don't think any other countries write good novels, which is not true, but in the past, we haven't been real aware of them or had the chance to be. But lately, with the great new awareness of diversity in all things, including literature, there's been a real surge in books of other countries, both East and West. They're great works being translated into English. In fact, I especially like the books that are translated, science fiction books that are translated in English. Seem to be a lot of Asian ones lately, and one even won one of the big U.S. Science fiction awards a couple of years ago. But I digress. I'm getting back to, okay, translated works. Okay, part of the new awareness is there are of translated novels that we English speakers have is helped by the fact that there are two big book awards now given for best novel translated into English. They both take part, unfortunately, during the late winter, early spring season, and but in a way that's good because there's not much. That's before all the science fiction awards start, which there's 6 of those during the spring and summer, which I always like to try to read all of those. Okay, anyway, back to I have spent the last few years, my winter reading time, trying to read the long lists of both of the translated fiction awards. Now, as I said, there's 2 awards. The first one is the newly named Man Booker International Award, and it is for books that have been translated and published in, I guess, all of Great Britain in the past, whatever their time scheme is. And they usually have 12 or 13 on their list. And so I try to read all those. And there's one now in the U.S. called the Best Translated Book Award, BTBA, which is awarded, and they managed to get 25 on their long list. So that is really fun to attempt to read. They do give you a lot of time to read it. But the thing that's made it so interesting and fun to get into this is there are some great forums on Goodreads that discuss these long list translations when they come out. many really erudite readers, and even some I think maybe are probably professionals in the field, get into it, and we discuss it, and they give some very long length reviews, and we have a way where we tally our own results of what's best, and it's really made it fun. Um, that's what I was going to say. Let's see what we're going to. Do I want to tell you any more about that? No. Oh, okay. One of the things that I learned on these forums was about this. But now this isn't the book I should have read. This is, you aren't seeing it yet. This is a book that was published last year, which is a wonderful reference of the newly translated books into English. I'll let you read it for yourself. Well, The Guide to Contemporary World Fiction by M.A. Orthifer. He is really the king of translated fiction at this point. He has a daily blog that he puts out where he gives you all the latest news from all over the world in fiction, and especially things that are translated into English. And he has a great backlog of reviews he's given in the past, almost anything, any of the important works that have been translated. So anyway, on my forum, or the forums that where people are interested in translation fiction, this was a big hit, of course, and we were all talking about it when it came. And in it, we noted that, I'll put that down, that's it for that. Okay, there was going to be published late last year a really supposedly talked about and adulated book from Germany by Arno Schmidt, who was a very, I understand, famous writer there. And it was going to be his magnum opus called, well, it's in English, it's called Bottom's Dream. I'm not a German speaker, so I won't give you the German thing in it. But anyway, it was supposed to be, from what we could learn, really what was going to be the translation of the year, because it was very difficult to translate. It had like lots of endnotes and annotations which were important to the novel anyway. But the translator, John Woods, spent, I understand, 10 years working on the translation. So there was much talk on our forum about this upcoming book and how everybody really wanted to read it. Another thing that sounded interesting is that in the Orthifer's book, he gives a little preview and mentions that in it, this novel is a close analysis of Edgar Allan Poe's works, which, you know, sounded interesting, and possibly because some of us were actually familiar with that. Anyway, so Amazon had 100 copies of it that they were going to sell. So all of us that were looking forward to it, of course, pre-ordered our copies and talked about great excitement was building in the forum. We all couldn't wait to get it. We set up a plan of how much we were going to read per day and discuss. You can still see on Goodreads, there's a forum for Arno Schmidt's Bottom's Dream that's set up with all the different chapters and that we would write in when we got to that chapter. I'll tell you in a minute what happened to that. Okay, are you ready for the book? Okay, this is not easy. Oh, here is the book. I guess maybe I was warned, but I didn't realize it weighs 20 pounds. And it is 1,500 pages. And it is a big book. They're not little small pages with big writing. I became overwhelmed when I saw it. Now, I thought the book group on Goodreads would surely help me get started. But you know, none of them seem to get right into it. In fact, I looked at it just today, and there's still the forum, Arno Schmidt forum set up, but there's nobody who's read it. So I don't feel quite as bad. But anyway, I think one of the things that kind of put people off, for me anyway, is that it was mentioned that now it's being called the Finnegan's Wake of German literature. Now, I'm sure probably some of you have read Finnegan's Wake, but to me, Finnegan's Wake makes Ulysses look like a mere primer. So that kind of made me a little nervous, and I didn't think I could certainly read it without some help. And anyway, so that's the book I should have read. And with that, I feel much less guilty now, at least talking about it. If any of you have read it or would like to read it or know somebody who has, please let me know. I'm not really ready to do a buddy read yet, but I would like to know somebody who's read it. Okay, for us in the U.S. that work, for those who work, not me, they're going to have another day of rest tomorrow. It's called Labor Day, ironically. And there's going to be a real treat here on BookTube. Steve Donovan is taking questions, any kind of questions, and we'll be making, because the poor thing doesn't get any new books tomorrow in the mail, he'll be taking any kind of questions and attempting to answer them. Now, I have a really good question in there for him, and I'm sure he's still taking questions, so if you want to tune in. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a nice break in the reading day. Okay, have a good day. Happy reading, you guys. Bye.